And Evercore ISI wrapping up its first ever tech, media, and telecom conference today. Some of the biggest names in the industry participate, including Uber, Expedia, Match, and Roku, along with private companies like Grab and Nextdoor. But it was comments from Uber that stood out the most. To our next guest, Mark Mahaney is here, Senior Managing Director and Head of Internet Research at Evercore ISI. Mark, great to see you this morning. Congratulations on putting together a pretty remarkable group of people in one place. Tell us, though, about this moment, if you will, with Dara Khosrowshahi.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. Let's see. Uber presented at our conference. It was the CFO and their head of public policy, or the person most responsible for regulations, which for a gig economy company like Uber, that's a major investor issue. Anyway, the takeaways for us were it looks like ride-sharing demand is recovering just a little bit faster, a couple of small percentage points, but it matters, faster than street expectations. And it looks like the delivery business, largely the Uber Eats business, but there are other elements to it, looks like that's sustaining growth a little faster than expected, despite the reopening of the economy in the U.S. Their advertising business also seems to be tracking a little bit better than expected. And Uber, as a company that's not profitable, needs all the high margin revenue streams they can get. Advertising is one of those. And finally, on the regulatory side, this is a hard one to handicap, but it does look like the chances of federal legislation seem to be de minimis that'll negatively impact Uber over the next year or two.
I'm curious how you think the question of there's lots of people are going to want more demand, but the question, of course, is the biggest issue is whether you think enough drivers are going to get back on the road and what that ultimately looks like.
Yeah, so it's a key part of the equation for Uber. It's kind of a three-sided marketplace. You need consumers, the drivers, and the merchants. The one new data point that came out of this conference was their disclosure that in the second half of May, they had 70,000 new drivers sign up for Uber. There's at least two issues here with drivers, at least on the ride-sharing part of Uber. One is vaccinations or social safety. So for a lot of drivers, they're maybe unwilling, have been reticent about, cautious about getting into a car with strangers. As vaccination rates rise, it's making it, that is luring back more drivers into the system. Also, Uber's gone out of its way to offer incentives. They announced $250 million worth of driver incentives. They announced this earlier in the year in March. And then maybe as a third issue is the impact that subsidies have, the stimulus checks to Americans has had on maybe disincentivizing some people from working for Uber. It seems like those issues are starting to improve. And at the margin, you should see supply issues get resolved, we believe, for Uber by the end of this year.
What's your sense longer term about the employment picture, gig worker issue that we're going to see both from this administration and how that's going to impact companies like Uber and Grubhub and the like?
This is going to evolve over years. I think DoorDash actually makes a really interesting argument about gig economy employees. What they'll tell you is their average dasher with their driver drives around 4 hours a week. And what it tells you is that the people who drive for some of these companies, particularly DoorDash, I mean, these are usually full-time employees of other companies or part-time employees or their students just looking for a little incremental income. And DoorDash and some of the other gig companies make it easy for people to do that. To the extent that that's true, and I largely believe that's true, this is something that's a nice feature of the economy. It's almost like an economic stabilizer in a way. It's a quick way for people to get extra bucks. In that case, it's actually beneficial to the economy. I realize there are a lot of other issues associated with gig economy employees, but there is that one positive element that sometimes gets missed.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.